I be like, sheesh, sunset on the beach. Make me wanna pull up on Miami with the heat. I don't know about you.
Welcome back to the Anytime Sports Podcast Show. We got the long-awaited Andrew Buzzanco, Buzz for short, on ASP finally. He's a big Patriots fan. We're going to do a big Patriots deep dive in this episode. So anyone that's a Patriots fan or interested in the up and coming of the Patriots franchise, stay tuned because it's going to be a banger episode. So Buzz, we'll start it off with you. Why did you become a Patriots fan, and why is your fandom for the Patriots so strong?
Well, I know most of you probably do realize you follow our channel or the ASP channel just enough that you realize this is a Chicago-based fan base over here. And I happen to be a Patriots fan living in this Chicagoland. Grew up actually in Massachusetts all my young life. And you know what the funny thing is? I was actually a Cowboys fan when I was young because all I saw was the Cowboys winning.
No way! I didn't know that.
I had a Cowboys blanket, a little plush blanket when I was young. And then all of a sudden I was like,
wow.
My dad was like, what are you doing? And like, why do you like them? I was like, because they win. And then all of a sudden he changed me over and I had to watch my Patriots lose 4 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Drew Bledsoe was all good. And then all of a sudden this boy named Tommy Boy came up and all of a sudden he started winning for us. But yes, I was initially, when I was real young, I wasn't smart. I'm sorry. I liked the Cowboys. I wasn't a good person. But I understood and grew up. And all of a sudden I was like, you know what? These Patriots aren't that bad. We got to root for the hometown team and where I grew up. And I was just fortunate and blessed to see these boys win a couple of chips, you know? And here we are today. With these fine gentlemen, I've been waiting years to get on this podcast now. So here we are, a chance to talk about my favorite team, the Patriots, even though they dog water right now. We're going to get better here soon, boys.
They certainly are looking up in the up direction. Are you a little bit of a Cowboys fan? Do you have a soft heart for them? Or are you just like, nah, I'm really not?
You know, I felt bad for the Tony Romo, the amount of hate he got. Cause maybe I like him as a commentator. I don't know what it is with the bad juju, but it's Jerry Jones, man. I can't stand that, man. Like, they could be better. And maybe if they didn't have him, I like him, but nah, I don't hate the Cowboys. I feel bad for those boys. They were America's team, but they haven't been in a long time.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people hate them nowadays. They more feel sorry because they just realize Jerry's just lost his marbles.
I think you're by yourself there. I hate the Cowboys. I mean, I'd love to see their downfall. The past years with Mike McCarthy have been terrible, and they had a couple good years, but this past year is awful. But
I guess it's those Chiefs. I never thought I'd really hate a team, and maybe because I'm biased with my Patriots and I don't want Patty Mahomes to be better. That's the closest team outside of the New York Yankees. The Yankees I fucking hate. The rest, we all right.
Yeah, we're all right. All right, let's go into last season. The New England Patriots were the last team in the AFC East. I believe they were. Yeah, they were the last team in the AFC East. They finished 4-13. They had 289 points scored, and they had 417 points allowed. They were 22nd in the league allowed points, and they scored the 30th most points in the league. So that's pretty bottom of the barrel right there. Their team grades going into the end of this offseason, they were 30th overall, 30th offensive ranked, 24th defensive ranked. They have a couple young guys on the defensive side of the ball. They have some potential. Definitely going to need to have a little bit more upgraded on the offensive line, especially. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But their special teams very much surprised me, Buzz. It is second in special teams. So special teams, not a problem with this New England Patriots team. I mean, they punted a lot this year, right, Buzz? So their punters got to be pretty good.
That's actually how it works. Yeah, you know what? That could be good. That could be bad. Thinking about like, okay, are our numbers better because we just had to punt so much? What are some of the numbers actually for special teams? Do you know?
I don't have the exact numbers for special teams. I just know their ranking right now is second. They didn't miss many kicks this year. Other teams had worse kickers than this year. But
you guys keep going. I'm gonna find those special teams numbers. You keep talking.
Okay, we'll keep talking about that. So the special teams, they're not too bad. So you don't have to fix all three phases of the football. So you got two phases to fix.
That's the other two. We're not going to worry about the one that most people don't. Dang, you know what? Matthew Slater over there been on special teams. He's like a lifetime special teamer. Damn, I didn't realize. Okay, all right,
Ask the
one less thing to worry
2018
about.
Chicago Bears, who had a decent offense and a decent defense, and they didn't have the special teams. You need a good special teams unit. Think about the years winning with Adam Vinatieri, and especially when he went over to the Colts and he kicked very well for them. So
That's fact.
the Patriots has always have had decent special teams, and I mean, I don't know if you credit that to Bill Belichick for having a great special teams, but they've just I don't think they've ever had, in my lifetime at least, had a really bad special team.
Yeah, I got the stats. If we want to touch on them real quick, returning was Marcus Jones. He's a cornerback. He returned most of the returns all year in 26 returns. He had 386 total yards, 427 total yards on the season. For kick returns, they had decent yards there. Kicking, Joey Sly was 96%, 25 or 26 in extra points. And field goals, he was 78%, 26 for 33. Punting, Bryce Behringer, he had 3,486 total yards and 70 punts on the game, averaging 50 yards per punt. So that's pretty solid on the special teams.
That's pretty solid, and we can go into it a little bit more in a little bit. Let's head into some of the assets that the New England Patriots have heading into the 2025 offseason. They have $38.04 million in cap space, the third best in the NFL. So you have a lot of money to spend right now. If you're New England, you might need to spend a little more just because I don't think you have people wanting to come to the Patriots right now. You kind of had that Bill Belichick and Tom Brady effect during that era where players did want to come. You got guys like Randy Moss there, which otherwise I don't think would ever consider going to Boston. But their draft picks, they got a couple of good draft picks. They got one day one pick, their first round draft pick. They have 3 day 2 picks. And day 3 picks, they have 5 for a total of 9 picks in this upcoming draft. And we got a couple other, we'll go through a couple draft situations, a couple guys I think the Patriots would work out with. But let's head into some of the highest PFF graded players this season. So it surprised me, but the number 1 rated player was Joe Milton. Joe Milton was the number 1 rated player for the New England Patriots. In the last regular season game he played, he had an offensive PFF rating of 95.8. He had a 94.9 pass rating and a 72.6 run rate.
Game.
Yeah,
wow.
He played 1 game. He had the best, and I didn't really count that because he only really played 1 game, so I added a couple extra in there as the highest. But what are your thoughts as a Patriots fan about Joe Milton? We saw him at Tennessee, and he's got a big arm, and he's very athletic, but we haven't seen him put it all together really for a full season. What are your thoughts as a Patriots fan? There has been some talks of maybe him being the starting quarterback, or they might ship him off. What, as a Patriots fan, what do you want to see?
So what I want to see, which one, I'm actually a little surprised he was that high. I guess, he could have been, being the last game of the season, we were also slated to have the first overall pick of the draft. And Joe Milton said he said that the Pats, which I do believe at this point, bombed the game so we can get that first pick. Because we went from first to fourth. And that takes us back actually 6 picks in the second round, where we would have been the 3rd or 4th in the second, but now we're the 8th pick, I believe, in the second round, or 6th at least, I think is what it is. Yeah, 32. And
you were the 6th pick. Yep.
I want to see a little bit more of May. Like I like the big arm and I like the run, but May can run. May had about 400 or 500 yards on the ground with 2 tutties. That's not bad for a team where, just like you guys in the Bears, he was running for his life. I think Russ and the Bears had the worst offensive lines in the league by a long shot. I'm okay with keeping him, but to be honest, I think it's one or the other. I would rather have a veteran backup, and I want to get some picks because, like, this year with the draft, depending on free agency, which I'm sure we'll talk more, is like I feel like there's so many different routes we could go. I don't need 2 young, good quarterbacks on my team. I don't. Only one's ever going to play. I don't need him as a backup. And I don't want just that strong arm. I want someone who's actually a game manager, who's going to think about the game, who's going to – I like the fact that May can move and he can get the first down and even then some. even more so than Brady, because Brady scared the shit out of me. Anytime that man used to run, I used to cover my eyes. I was like, oh God, don't, Tommy. Um, I guess I can see it, but also I feel like that grade's got to be skewed because Buffalo knew. They didn't try. They're like, bro, do you want the first pick or do you not want it? They
Yeah.
weren't worried about it. They were worried about beating the Chiefs in the playoffs. They were fine. They already knew at that point, which I know it sucks to have to tank a game, but that's one like I think it could benefit us in the fact that that could be more trade. Like that could be okay. He can perform. Our other team's going to see the fact that he was playing second and third stringers in Buffalo. Maybe I hope so because we are. So I hope they're paying attention to that as well. I honestly would like to get something out of him, and that's something like we'll talk about. Like, there's so many different trades. I feel like that we can move up and down, kind of where we could maybe get something else and get some more like draft picks and some more capital in the future. So I like Mill. He's exciting, but so is May. He got me excited this year when I know he threw some interceptions. He threw a few too many picks, but like he gave us some hope because we were watching Jacoby Brissett do like, bro, stop dumping this. You're not even trying to win. I'd rather have Jameis Winston on my team and go 30-30 or 40-40 and actually trying to win some games. Like there's so many times where I was at least Drake was making this and trying to keep us in games as best you can with as few weapons as you have. So I like Milton to see, you know what? I like the fact that he's like, nah, I'm not tanking. I want to win. I'm a winner. And I like that about him. I think I'm just kind of in between because would I rather have the first overall pick in comparison to the fourth? I would this year. It's like, because in comparison to me, what we have for draft choices, who I really want, and we'll talk about, he ain't going to be there at pick 4. He's not. And there ain't no, it could. People, every year somebody picks someone that you're like, WTF, why did you just do that?
Yep.
I like it. I like the fact that he wants to win, but I also like Drake. And you know what? I feel like if I could get one or more from the other, I would be up for trading potentially either of the two, depending on what I could get back from somebody else.
Yeah. I was gonna
Go
say.
ahead.
I was gonna say not to steer away from the topic, but
Go for it.
along with Drake May, you have a brand new coach, Mike Vrabel, Patriots legend back in the days. So where does that bring the team to? Is he the right guy? He was obviously the first head coach hired in the offseason. What does he bring to your team that you can like bring forward, especially with a young quarterback in his second year?
Yeah, I got some stats here about Mike Vrabel. He has coached 99. He's got 99 games coached as a head coach in the NFL. He is a 6-year coach.
Head coach?
Yep, he's coached for 6 years as a head coach. I didn't realize that, so I looked that up. But he is 54-45 with a 545 win percentage right there. So Mike Vrabel comes into a situation where Gerard Mayo really ran into the ground this past season. Did not work out. Many thought he was going to be a decent head coach, and it didn't really work out for many different reasons. I think his coaching style didn't fit, and especially following the greatest coach of all time, Bill Belichick. It's very hard to do, and I don't think he was set up for success. I don't think this roster was set up for success. I hope he gets an opportunity in the distant future to become a head coach. I think he can become a good head coach. But, yeah, what do you think? As a Patriots fan, Mike Vrabel is coming back to coach the Patriots.
No, I like this, and we'll go a little bit back and forth with the Gerard thing. Like, actually, one of my favorite players, loved him as a linebacker on our team. Actually, I wish he played longer on our team. Actually, I felt like he retired pretty early. And from what I've heard a little bit, just doing some Google research, it seemed like, I guess Gerard he never stood a chance. It seemed like they were kind of getting somebody into place. And from what I read on there and some rumors at least, they were just trying to find a filler for like a year because they couldn't find anyone else to do that. So like, you're right. I felt like he was set up for failure. Like that team, you can't expect a lot of teams to come in and like we see these other coaches and GMs be like owners like, hey, you need to win next year. Bro, you literally giving me dog water to work with. Mm-hmm. Give me an opportunity to do that. And I felt like he came in. Was I expecting greatness from him? No. I wanted to see more. I wanted to see how he's going to draft, how he's going to put the team together. What I was really hoping from him was that he was a former Patriot under Bill Belichick, winning shit. Like, dude knew what it was like to be like the Patriot way. And from what I've also heard too was everyone has their different style. It seemed like from what some of the players were saying was he was a little more chill, a little more lax on them, which you're the best of the best at this point, boys. Like you're the 1% of the 1% that's the best to play this ball. Like you need to be a little tough. Like you need to be the alpha among this team. You need to show them and lead them. And to me, like if that was part of the problem, that was true, he wasn't ready for a head coaching job. You need to be a little tough. You need to get that respect from your team, and you need to get them on that plan. Seeing Vrabel, and actually, those are some good numbers. I actually am surprised because he was with the Titans that entire time, right?
Yeah.
Yes, he was there with the Titans. He had a couple bad seasons afterward. And I think it's a new slate. And I think with ownership, I think this could be a very good and potentially a Super Bowl winning combination.
Give him the next few years. I agree. Give me some time. I like Drake or Joe. I think that's in the right direction, at least to do that, to lead the team, at least to give us a chance to win games rather than just being like, okay, we're kind of just here for right now. Go ahead.
It's one thing that Mike Vrabel never had was a quarterback with as much talent. He took Ryan Tannehill to an AFC championship game.
Yeah.
So what can he do with a second-year Drake May and a returning face at offensive coordinator in Josh McDaniels? We know what happens when Josh McDaniels is in the New England building, and his record speaks for himself. Not a great head coach, but a damn good offensive coordinator, and that's for sure. And we were talking about this a little bit before the podcast, but what a pick by Mike Vrabel to pick somebody who you know is not going to be a head coach. He's gotten two shots already, and he's really burnt all his bridges for head coaching. So he comes back, and he's one of the best offensive minds in the NFL. He's going to stay there for forever. It's kind of a winning combination. You think about in Kansas City, the defensive coordinator, Spagnuolo, who's been there forever. He's not going to become another head coach. It didn't work out with him to begin with, and this might be a winning combination. I was
gonna say, backing off of that, like kind of pairing, especially with such a young guy, when you have May and you have Milton, you obviously drafted May to be your guy, and having an offensive-minded guy in your team to mentor these young guys, and then maybe you build up Joe Milton's draft stock somehow as a backup, and before his contract's up, maybe a team wants to trade for him. A team, maybe say the Raiders, who's going to take an older quarterback in the offseason probably, or you have a Steelers. So maybe a team like that needs a midseason quarterback, you're kind of keeping Milton in the tank for that. But kind of pairing Vrabel up, a nice culture builder, with McDaniels is a great combo, and I feel like great recipe for success. They just need to draft and pick up a couple more weapons to pair alongside May.
I think you need to ship Joe Milton now. I think in this weak quarterback class, you're not going to get as higher value if you wait on him right now. This quarterback class isn't the best we've seen. So
no, it's shaky. It's shaky at best. And with that, when this quarterback's, because Cam Ward's probably the only one I feel, I'm not even sure safe is the right word, like comfortable.
Yeah.
But again, I don't feel like any of them are like, these aren't my franchise quarterbacks. Like if May or Caleb was in this, they're easily number one overall. Even if Bo Nix is back in this draft, they're easily number one overall over these guys and what they did in college and showing what they did this year.
Yeah.
Like, I agree. Joe's got to go.
Yeah, I was going to say Cam Ward is like he's really talented, but like we were saying, there's not that great of a draft class. This kind of reminds me of, I think, the 2021 draft when we had Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis. Teams are picking quarterbacks in the first round because they're forced to. They're forced to take a gamble on a guy like Shedeur Sanders. And like you were saying, a Bo Nix would go first overall. Some years we just get unlucky with the draft class, when next year we'll get a draft class including Arch Manning, and we'll get those generational guys. Yeah, that's crazy. But
much better, probably. And that's the thing is where I agree. I think that's why I was saying Joe or Drake. I'd probably stick with Drake just because of the overall. But if I could get a Hall, but I don't know how much Joe's been doing good. Like he's looked good in that time with a crap offense, but against a defense that wasn't playing for anything. And I don't know, but I would rather sell out on the hype for him right now, because I still feel comfortable enough that Drake is going to get the job done. I feel like if we put the right pieces in place, he can still win me a championship. Whereas I feel it's kind of the same thing, but I would rather get that couple pieces from Joe Milton to trade away, because, like I said, how many teams actually really need a quarterback right now? Like
A lot.
quite
A
a
lot.
few are, and I'm sure willing to take a shot on somebody to do that. And he looked good, and I like that fact. I like his mentality, but I want that first overall pick this year. I really do. I'm normally not one to tank, and I would never tell anybody. But if we're already at 3-12 or whatever, 3-13, and you really got to win one more to show out what you're really doing for us.
I
Like,
think teams are preparing for next year's quarterback class, and I think you'll see free agency moves equivalent to that. And especially a team you got to consider is I think the Rams are going to be tanking this season. I believe that full heartedly. They need a quarterback. Matthew Stafford's not going to be there for a longest time. And the thought of Arch Manning going to a place like LA with the Rams, with Sean McVay, with that young roster, especially on the defensive side of the ball that has balled out,
bro,
that is a dangerous thought
Yeah.
to have. And that's like one of the teams. Of course, you're going to see I don't think the Titans pick a quarterback this season, in this draft. I think they like the quarterbacks in next year. They've been wanting to trade back, but it's hard to get somebody to try to trade up. There's only a couple guys that you really want in this draft, and hopefully the Patriots, they fall to them. We'll talk about them in a little bit later. We'll talk about the defensive coordinator later on. Let me get through some of these highest PFF players as well. We had in second place was Jabril Peppers. My bad. His safety, 29 years of old. He had a defensive rating of 83.1, a run defensive rating of 76.9, and a coverage rating of 81.7. So, of course, he's on a little bit of the older side of things, but you needed a leader on the defensive side of the ball. He certainly did that this season. And I bet you don't know who this player is, Buzz.
I know it is.
I didn't know this player existed.
What?
But the third best player on the team, Miles Battle, cornerback, age 25. He only played 18 snaps this season. So I don't know how much you watched of that. You may have been like
18 snaps
during those 18 snaps. But he had a rating of 80.6 for defensive. Run defense was 60.9, so very bad on that. But he's a cornerback. You're not going to get good run defense there. A coverage rating of 81.7. Yeah. There's a little bit on that. It brings it down a little bit. But then I was like, okay, let me go to another one who actually played some snaps this season.
So who was actually next then? I'm interested.
Yeah, Christian Gonzalez was a cornerback, very good this season. I think, as a Patriots fan, he had a really good season. He had a pass coverage of 76.0. He had a run defense of 59.2, a coverage rating of 74.9. But really – a kind of decent corner to play for your team. I think he plays on the outside, so he's really an outside guy. What are your thoughts on a guy like Christian Gonzalez? I don't think he'll be a number one, but I think he could be a very serviceable cornerback on a team in the distant future.
I wish I had the numbers I had too, and I looked at him. Honestly, I would take him as my number one. I've seen him shut down some people. Maybe not to be real, it's been a while. I'm a defensive guy, and I like run game. That's me, just so everyone knows on this. But to see him play on that defense side of the ball, I would take him. He's been injured a little bit more than I would like these past couple of years. But he's been great on ball when I see him, and he can shut down most people. But what I was saying, we have a lot of good young DBs in this game and secondary in this game right now. Seeing Sauce Gardner over there and the Jets, that Texans DBs, they're phenomenal. Those two are great. Even actually the guys on the Eagles, those two young bucks, they looking good over there. I like Gonzalez. Honestly, I am happy with him as my number one. I would be happy. I would be okay with him matching up against most number one receivers in the league. I know he ain't going to win all of them, but I would. To be honest, if I compare him, that's what we'll talk about with some of the drafts. I wouldn't mind another DB to completely shut down that air game. Because we did okay better in the air. I wish I had the numbers for that. I saw our DVOA for the defense in 2023. We're 9th overall. We were 3rd against the run and 15th against the pass in 2023. But we were ranked in DVOA 29th this past year is what I got down here. And I wish we did that. But he was probably our one. I think Peppers did good. But again, I think a lot of stuff, some of the numbers are Peppers was suspended for 4 or 5 games this year for whatever, beating his wife or somebody, doing something fucking stupid.
Yeah.
And he is a good, solid player. But I like Gonzalez. He's a good secondary. He's one of my few lone pieces this year that are solid because I like Barmore, but I don't know if you guys know Christian Barmore. This dude's got like blood clots. He may never actually play again.
I didn't know that.
That's his issue. Like the dude had blood clots issues. Like, so I don't know if he's actually coming back to play in the NFL again. And that man was solid. And he was probably one of our few lone stars, like shining spots on the defense, minus a young Christian Gonzalez. Like he was hurt a little early his first year, and I think that hurt him a bit more. But I like him. He's a very good player. Where it's, I said, am I expecting him to shut down JJ? I expect him to slow him down, like most people. And there's gonna be some games, but when we have to really overhaul our defense, when you have no pressure on a quarterback, how much are you going to ask from my secondary to hold off? Like, you want him to hold for 5 seconds? You want him to hold for 10? Like, I would love that number actually to see, because you can only expect the defense, the secondary, to hold out like so long before, okay, like my D-line, like we looking at the Super Bowl. Eagles had no blitzes until the fourth quarter, and they had 7 sacks. Their front four got 7 sacks without blitzing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you need. And I get they had a little bit of hurt, but you can only expect the secondary to hold off so long. So I do like him. If we get better, we get some more pressure, we get a couple people to help get to that quarterback, I think he shines even more because of that.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that. Christian Gonzalez is the 13th best cornerback in the league right now out of 116 corners. He played the most snaps out of the Patriots defense, 978 snaps. And
a lot of snaps.
He's a second-year player too. So playing that amount of snaps in your second year shows you got a big role coming, and we could see him take that number 1 role. He was drafted first round out of Oregon 2 years ago in 2023's draft. Jabril Peppers.
Deal too that year. He was like 17th pick.
Yeah, 17th.
He was much better that year than he should have got picked for.
Yeah, Jabril Peppers was also a first-round pick. His was all the way back in 2017. And he is the 6th best safety in the league out of 98 safeties. So 2 decent studs, 1 veteran stud, 1 young stud on that defense to build around.
Let's talk about the strong safety you got there. And you got Kyle Duggar. He did not have a good season this year. His rookie year was the season before that. He had a decent year, takes a step back. What do you want to see from him this offseason to maybe improve? Because we see the talent's been there since his rookie year. How does he get back on the right track?
Well, so what he even said himself by the end of the year, dude was injured almost the entire year. And I was like, just go on IR. We clearly aren't winning this year. And I appreciate you, brother, in that heart, but I need you at 100%. And I do, or at least 95. And that's what killed me is like the team let him. And he let him, and I get it. You're hurt, but like, if we're winning something, I may be okay with it. But he was hurt, and you know what? To be honest, a lot of the stuff in Wade Vrabel coaches, he's actually a pretty big dude. He's not that fast, actually. He's like, what is he? 6'2", 6'3"? I think he's like 230, 220.
Andrew's looking it up right now.
What?
Are you looking up Kyle Duggar? I think
I have some stats about him. I don't have that exact.
You know his height and weight.
His height. Let's see.
He's like 6'2", 220.
Yeah. Yeah, I was. Go
ahead.
I was gonna say another stat about him. He's the 96th out of 98th corner or safety in the league. Absolutely atrocious. He was drafted in 2020 in the second round out of Lenore Rhine. I don't know what division they are. Division, I believe they're Division 2. But yeah, he was drafted out of a school like that, and that's not a guy you want. I mean, having on your team for 4 years now, you need to see a better performance. He played 759 snaps too, so that's a good sum of snaps. Probably a guy.
That's what's tough.
Yeah. Probably a guy you want to address in the offseason too. Maybe give him a less crucial role, or potentially pick a guy to put in his place. Yeah, his official height is 6'2", 222, like you said. But
so what I thought about him, and depending on that, because we normally are a base 3-4 in our area and what we've been playing, And there's times I've been thinking now, depending on the team who we have, I'd be more okay with a 4-3, even 3-4. But like him, and there's the other safety. He's younger, I think, Marte Mapu. He played well, but honestly, I would like both of those guys to go down to like outside linebacker. Like they're still good enough. Vrabel likes people that can go sideline to sideline. He wants someone that's there. He doesn't want like those normally. He's okay, but I've seen from what he's in the past what he likes. He wants someone that can get from sideline to sideline, cover the field, do this. Him and those two, I would also like to draft somebody, maybe sign someone. There's actually quite a few safeties out in agency. Like, so what you said actually earlier, I thought maybe I'm wrong, but I thought the Patriots had the most at $121 million in cap space.
They do. They have the most in the entire league.
The most?
I believe they have the most or the
third.
third most. They're up there.
They're number most.
It's them. The Commanders are like 2 or 3 with like 80 or 90 million.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure we're at 121 million the last I looked, like a day or two ago.
Yeah,
and we have the most. So go for it.
Yeah, I'm going to confirm. I'm going to double check that. But I just wanted to say, the guy you were talking about, Marte Mapu, he's 52nd out of 98 cornerbacks in the league. He played about half of snaps in the season, 487. He's 6'3", 230, from Sacramento. Drafted in 2023 in the 3rd round. I got the cap space up right now. The Patriots have the most, 119 million. Raiders are next, 92 million. Commanders got 75 mil, and you got Chargers 69 mil. Then you got the Bears at 62 mil. So the Patriots are leading that by a good sum. They have 6 million in dead, but the Raiders have the most in dead money in 29 mil. But they have the most cap. The Patriots do. So a lot of room to build.
Yeah, we need to really spend our money right in the way we do. Because I remember a few years back, was it Kendrick Bourne? There was somebody. We paid some receiver some dumb amount of money for. I was like, we have all this money, and you paying this guy this amount of money to come in here? Nah. And that's what I feel like with Duggar and Mapu. I feel like we have some of those needs. I think they need to go down to linebacker, especially like 6'3", 230. That's a solid linebacker position, bro. Like, he's not as fast either, neither is Duggar. I would like to see both of those guys down at linebacker, to be honest.
How about Jelani Talu? I don't know how to say his last name, really. He was – I don't know how to say it, so I'm not going to even pretend to say it. He had 100. He led the team in 115 tackles this season, linebacker, inside linebacker. So that's very good. You get a linebacker to have over 100 tackles in a season. That's very good. So he had a PFF rating of 55.5. So he might be a good depth piece to have, maybe. But you certainly want an upgrade, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and the defensive line is definitely where you want to look at as well. You mentioned about the wide receiver. Let's talk about some wide receivers. We'll talk about that. That's big in my free agency as well. I have them addressing that this offseason. But let's talk about Kayshon Boutte. Supposedly, a couple years ago, he was supposed to be the prodigy for the next best wide receiver. He did not. He had some off-the-field issues, got drafted by the Patriots to see if he could revitalize his career. He's not the true number one. You got a really good guy in Demario Douglas.
Yep.
He's been very, very good. I think he'll be a very good slot receiver guy, kind of like but I don't think he's going to be your number one. So you're going to need to find a guy, which we'll go into free agency. Let me get through some of the leaders this season first. Drake May was the obvious passing leader this season, 2,276 yards. Ramondre Stevenson, we haven't even touched on the running backs yet, with 801 yards this season. Hunter Henry led the team with 674 yards receiving.
He was our best offensive threat. Hunter Henry.
Best offensive threat was your tight end. Sometimes the young quarterback loves their tight ends. You had Christian Gonzalez with 2 interceptions leading the team. Drake May had a 66.6 completion percentage. He had an average of 6.7 yards. He had 15 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. I mean, not the worst stats we've seen this season. But let's talk about some of the running backs here. So we had Stevenson and we had Gibson this season, the main 2 backs there. Stevenson, we mentioned 801 yards. Gibson, 538 yards. Stevenson averaged 3.9 yards. Gibson averaged 4.1. Stevenson had 7 TDs. Gibson has 1. But the big story on the season, especially with the Patriots run game, is Stevenson cannot hold on to the football. 6 fumbles this season, and Gibson had 2 himself. So they have not held on to the football very well, but they're Buzz. I think it might be time to address that in the draft. I as much as talented Stevenson is, he does have a little bit of injury issues, and especially if you're coughing up the football, Mike Vrabel does not like that. I could definitely see them addressing something this offseason.
No, they have to. But like Ramondre, I felt like it's at least better to hold on to the ball. Was a little shocked with how much he was just letting it go. I couldn't even believe how much he was dropping the ball and putting it on the ground.
Yeah.
A little bit of the benefit of the doubt too, as well as when you have, the bottom 2 worst offensive lines. When all of a sudden, because hey, personally, when I was in high school, I remember a couple times that's all I played, but I remember being handed off the ball and literally looking a defender in the eyes just to get ready to get wrecked. He's like, all right, here we go. And there's a lot of times though, like, I get we couldn't run as much, and I wish we could. We're never going to be in a situation where who the fuck we were ahead of. The only reason we beat the Bengals because it was week 1, and we know anything in the first 2 to 3 weeks, almost anything can happen.
Well, it was also the Bengals.
Yeah.
The Bengals is dangling. Whenever you expect them to win a big game, they never do.
No. So I like it because you know what? But I think we can get some late round draft. Like now, if I remember correctly, you guys can probably bring it up. Ohio State is it that has 2 really solid running backs coming into the draft?
Yes, they do.
Who are they?
I can touch on the draft.
Wanna,
this is a very
let's talk draft.
Yeah, this is a very, very deep running back draft. There is a lot of talent here. Like you said, Ohio State has 2 guys that are really good. The number 1 guy, obviously, Ashton Genty. He's going to go in probably the top 15, top 10 picks. You got Omari Hampton from North Carolina. You got Cam Scattaboo. You got Dylan Sampson, Caleb Johnson. And then here come the Ohio State guys, Trayvon Henderson and Quinshon Junkins. All these guys are within the top 70 picks, at least projected. So you've got a lot of running backs in this draft, a lot of teams that need a solid young running back. So there's a lot of guys that can go out and get, especially in the later rounds. You have Devin Neal from Kansas, R.J. Harvey from UCF. You got a lot of guys in the draft that they can go after, potentially let sit behind Stevenson for a little bit and put in the system. Maybe run a 2-back scheme. A lot of guys to go after.
There is a lot of guys to go after. I got a couple of guys listed. I have 3 guys listed around for the first 3 draft picks in the first 3 rounds. So I'm going to get your thoughts. I have a pick, and I'm going to ask you, what do you guys, in this situation, where would you go? First of all, you can't mention the first-round draft pick and the Patriots without mentioning Travis Hunter. The overall grade for cornerback this season was 88.2 in Colorado. He played 776 snaps on the defensive side of the ball. He's 6'1", 185. He's 21 years old. He's a junior, and he's going to be entering the draft. He had 96 receptions for 1,258 yards, 15 touchdowns, 1 forced fumble, 4 interceptions this season. He is a 2-way player. Does that translate to the NFL? We will find out.
Yeah.
I'm a little skeptical, but if there's anyone can do it, maybe he can do it. Taught by one of the best 2-way players out there, and Deion Sanders.
I was gonna say I had this conversation with one of my buddies, and we think that Travis Hunter is gonna be a full-time defensive player, a part-time offensive player. He's gonna play probably around 60% to 100% of defensive snaps once he gets fully evolved into the league, and he'll play about 40% of offensive snaps, maybe take that wide receiver 4-3 role. He's not going to get 100% of reps, because if you play that many reps in the league for 10 years, you're going to get beat up. That's rough. No one's done that since Deion, but the game is different now than it was back then. So there's going to be a lot of bumps and bruises, but we haven't seen a multi-way player in a long time in the league. So it'd be interesting to see how he kind of fits, especially which team drafts him.
I just feel like it depends on the team that drafts him. And I also feel like if he's going to be more of a defensive player, the offense is going to, like, it's not always necessarily bad, but I feel like they're going to have to scheme for him to get open on the offense. Like, they're going to have to make plays for him. Whereas, like, okay, when Travis comes out on offense and he's lining up on the outside, all right, be prepped because he's out here for a reason. Like, and that's what I think is going to happen because it's hard. We look at all these guys that get banged up left and right to try to stay in the league, like you said, for a certain amount of time. If you want to, I don't know, Dion was special, Bo Jackson was special, but that's why we've seen like 2, 3 guys ever to do that and actually be excel in both areas. So like for us, I wouldn't mind him. I'm sticking him on defense and I'm putting him in for maybe some screen plays, like something specifically worked out for Travis to do better, to do that so that I know he's getting the ball kind of deal. And that's what kind of makes me a little iffy. And I'd rather have him to, you just play opposite Christian and Gonzo and just keep that no-fly zone in my area. And that's all I'd really want.
See, it's very like you say, having specific design plays offensively for him. I think it's a good idea, but I think it could get very predictable later on in the season, especially if he's just out there to get the ball. Everyone knows he's going to get the ball. So it kind of defenses can key in on that. So they might have to do a very good disguise package depending on the team he ends up on. But another guy that I thought, hey, Patriots could get probably the best player in this draft, depending on how the quarterback situations go. How about Abdul Carter, the edge rusher out of Penn State, a 91.2 PFF grade this season, 734 snaps, 13 sacks, 10 quarterback hits, 43 quarterback hurries, and 1 batted down ball. 6'3", 252-pound junior, and he's 21 years old. He's the best player in this draft, but because of position needs and quarterbacks, he may fall down to 4, and if he falls down to 4, could be a very good spot for the Patriots.
Yeah, I was going to say this draft is probably one of the most unpredictable drafts in a long time. You have the Titans that could very well pick Travis Hunter at 1. This mock draft I have up here and the mock drafts I've seen, they have him picking Cam Ward. But like you were saying earlier in the podcast, Colin, are they going to want to tank for another year and get a guy like Arch Manning? The Titans are very unpredictable. Say they take Cam Ward, the Browns come at 2. They take Abdul Carter, or can they take Travis Hunter? Maybe they definitely need Abdul Carter if they're going to trade Myles Garrett. And then you go to 3. For the Giants, they could take Shedeur Sanders if they really want a quarterback this year. Maybe they do what the Titans are going to do. You tank for another year and you get a better quarterback next draft. But if they pick Shedeur, then that's the Patriots' cue to pick Travis Hunter. I think that the Giants could very likely pick Travis Hunter, and that'll give the Patriots a draft pick to pick maybe Will Campbell. Beef up that line a bit because that line was atrocious. We should address that later. But yeah, I think that Will Campbell.
I will be addressing the offensive line this round too. I think you mentioned it too. You hit it right on the head.
Yeah.
My pick for the Patriots that I think they will be drafting is, you mentioned it, Will Campbell, the offensive tackle out of LSU, 6'6", 323 pounds, 21-year-old behemoth. He's a tackle. PFF grade of 72.2 this season, but last year he had a PFF grade of 82.8. He allowed 2 sacks this season, 0 sacks the season before, 5 hits in both those seasons, and 11 hurries last season, 12 hurries in the year before that. Their lowest ranked offensive lineman this season, Dimitri Jacobs, I believe, 38.4.
That's tough.
That's very, very bad. So offensive line definitely needs to be addressed. What better way is to get the best offensive lineman in this draft to protect Drake May? Buzz, what are your thoughts? You're on the clock, round 1, pick 4. What are you taking?
So before I'm even on the clock, actually, I know you just put me on it, but before I'm on it is we have the most money. We need to spend it like we actually mean it. And the hard part is, though, like I know someone like they talked about with DK Metcalf, he's like, Boston isn't appealable, which you ain't wrong. Boston is not the sexy of places, but you got that money. Yep. But you look at Ayuk last year. Ayuk was going to get paid more to go to New England. He got paid a hefty sum, though, to stay in San Francisco, but he was going to get paid more. We need to get back on that winning page and pedigree, which I think Drake helps that show. Be like, hey, we got that key piece that can, but we need some people to surround him now. And when I look at that, like we have, all right, one second, put that in. So for offensive linemen, three people stand out that I have in free agency. Ronnie Stanley, who's from the Ravens, I believe. Alaric Johnson. They're both tackles from the Rams. Well, Jackson's from the Rams. Trey Smith from the Chiefs. Do I expect Trey Smith to go anywhere? No, I don't. He's with the Chiefs. Could I hope so? Yeah. We need to sign one of those three people. We have to. There is no ifs, ands, or fucking buts. We have so much money between him and possibly either T or Godwin. Even though I know he's a little older, we could probably get him cheaper. He was also hurt. He may not play initially. But I need one of those three, if not two of those three linemen.
Did you read my notes? Because I got number 1, T. Higgins, number 2, Trey Smith, number 3, Chris Godwin, number 4, Ronnie Staley. So I guess we have great minds think alike with those. I have potential contracts, projected contracts. T. Higgins projected contract, 4 years, $28 million a year, $67.5 million guaranteed, $112 million total. Trey Smith projected contract would be 4 years, $20.5 million a year, $50 million guaranteed, $82 million total. Chris Godwin, you might be able to get on a discount just because of the injury he sustained this past season. Projected contract, 3 years, $20 million a year, $40 million guaranteed, $60 million total. And Ronnie Staley's contract is projected at a 2-year, $20 million, $27.5 million guaranteed for a total of $40 million. So those are your projected contracts. And I think I agree with you, Buzz. You got to come away with one of these top offensive lineman prospects. Not prospects, free agents in the draft, and you also need to address it in the draft as well. So I agree with you on all those, and they need to go and sign at least 2 of these guys.
That's why it depends on me. Like, to be honest, I'm happy. If I sign 2, I'd rather honestly trade back that 4th pick. I've heard some rumors about the Raiders wanting to move up to 4, which means we could move to 6, which if I move from 4 to 6, he's that Georgia defender, that edge rusher, which I'm okay because, you know what, I'm still more of a defensive and I want to run the ball. We couldn't do dick on defense. At least before in the previous years, we've had a good, solid defense to keep us in games. And that's why it depends on a lot of stuff. I have, some defensive players, again, are people going to want to leave? Josh Sweat, he went over to the Eagles, but he just wanted chip. Is he going to really want to leave? Probably not. But can we pay him more than they can? Sure as fuck we can. And I'd rather you come on over to my team. We got, another cornerstone now. This depends. DJ Reed with the Jets. He's about to be out. He was a very good player this year, better than others, but you have a Sauce Gardner on the other side who kind of makes you look non-existent, which Sauce already looks non-existent because he don't let anyone catch the ball. But DJ Reed over there, great fucking player. Javon Holland out of the Dolphins, safety. I have a lot of options where we have the money, and I'm very interested to see.
Yeah.
I just really feel like we get one of those offensive linemen. And to me this year, Will Campbell, from what I've read at least, is he number 1 offensive lineman? Yes. Is he a generational type? Is he a pro-ready type? Not quite yet. There's other players in that league like Abdul Carter, which that's what I was saying earlier in the thing. Ain't no way he's making it to number 4. They're not. With the Browns getting rid of Garrett and some others, and yes, I see the Titans keep saying we're not going to miss out on a generational talent. Is that Travis? Is that Abdul? Who is it that they're talking about?
It's Abdul. I mean, Abdul's the best guy in the draft. I personally think he's leaps and bounds above everyone else.
So do I. I do too. And that's why I was kind of excited because I was like, maybe he'll slip because these guys need quarterbacks. But I've also, you know what? I don't know. Also, I've seen multiple years where teams have drafted 2 quarterbacks in a row because their first one didn't pan out. And they're like, all right, we're getting the next one because we tanked and trashed anyways. Hey, so we'll see with that.
Bum franchises do bum things.
Yeah.
Think Chicago Bears drafting Mitchell Trubisky over a guy like Deshaun Watson. Well, he's bad now, but at the time, very good. Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. Think bum franchises. They do bum things. So you think about the Titans, the Browns, both terrible franchises. So you don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
I saw Trayvon Walker go instead of it was Aiden Hutchinson a couple years ago. We saw that go. And he's turned out to be a decent defensive lineman, but not to what Aiden Hutchinson is.
Yeah.
The Lions lucked out with that one as well. So it's a little different in each situation.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you, Andrew, what do you think the Patriots need to do free agency wise?
I was just gonna say that. I think that a very good option, and I don't think we addressed him, is Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper's been that guy. He was on the Browns a couple of years ago. He was on the Bills this past year. He's a nice filler guy. His projected contract is a 2-year, $17 million deal. And you're not going to want to pay a guy like that. He's a little older, but he could be good because that receiving core on the Patriots is very young.
I don't really like that. I
mean,
really think he's towards the end of his career. You're going to get a guy like maybe Amari Cooper reminds me of what D-Hop was this year.
Yeah.
That's what he reminds me of. I don't think he's going to be an elite wide receiver, and I think the Patriots need someone elite. Like T. Higgins would be great. And I have my second-round draft pick. I have 3 options, one of them including a wide receiver. We can go into that. I think there's much cheaper options with better upside than an Amari Cooper. Not to say Amari Cooper wouldn't add to – I mean, he certainly would help. He's not going to hurt your team in any manner. He's a professional in every form of what a professional means to be. He is the definition of it. But I don't know. Buzz, what would you think if you saw Amari Cooper signed day one with the Patriots?
I'd be interested because still watching last year, I'm still a bit confused. Like, did Amari really fall off, or was it the new system? Like, I've seen him move around, and like when we were surprised the year prior, only because I had him on fantasy that year before, I was like, he put up just enough right numbers, like, or with the right quarterback not being Deshaun, or was it DTR? I forgot his name on the Browns, whatever his initial
Thompson Robinson, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And I was so shocked. Like, on Josh, I'm like, did they not know how to utilize him? Was he hurt? Like, did he just not learn the playbook in time? Because, like, I didn't expect the first couple weeks to really do much because you got to learn the new bay. They're going to still throw you in. It depends on the amount of money. Give me, like, a 1-year prove-it kind of deal, and I'm okay because he is that old. I would be willing. But, like, honestly, for somebody like Drake, I would rather have, like, a Cooper Kupp on my team for like a year. Give me a little bit of money for that maybe. But we need someone to stand out though. That's the issue. Like we can't keep dealing with these like 2s and 3s. It's like the Packers did okay, like, but we see them and like they have supposedly all these number 1 wide receivers, but none of them fucking can stay healthy and none of them perform like it either.
Yeah, I was going to say
it's someone that stand out.
I was going to say there's a lot of older wide receivers that could fit into that column. You got a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, who we just talked about. You got a guy like Stephon Diggs, who's a free agent. You got a lot of these guys in the offseason. But I think I think if they address Travis Hunter in the draft, if they get Travis Hunter and he falls, if the Giants are, like you said, a bum franchise, if they pick a quarterback this year and don't wait till next year, I think that Travis Hunter is the pick, and you have to take him. You have the money to address everything else in free agency. Will Campbell is a generational offensive line talent and I think you pick him, you're set for the future. But Travis Hunter, you can't pass up Travis Hunter if he drops, and you have the money to address him in free agency. Now, if I would pick Will Campbell, obviously, if that dropped to him, but you have to pick Travis Hunter if he falls to you. That's if he falls, though.
See, I want to add this a little bit too. A guy like Amari Cooper and a guy like Cooper Kupp, I don't think is signing up for a rebuilding team in the Patriots. I don't think that's just in the cards. I think they're not going to find a trading partner for Cooper Kupp. He's too old, too injury consistent. He makes too much money. They're going to have to cut him. That's just what's going to have to happen. So I think he's more likely to sign with a contending team or on the threshold of contending to prove them wrong. Hey, I'm in the playoffs and I'm catching big plays in the playoffs. He makes more sense to me in a place like Cincinnati, where he could sign, if they re-sign T. Higgins, Cooper Kupp, and Jamar Chase. That would be an insane little trio.
That's the thing with the Bengals. They fucked up if they maybe signed Jamar earlier in the year, and I know they're talking about restructuring with Joey B, but when you restructure and you do this bonus, it's for 1 year. It's not for multiple. So, okay, you're good for 1 year. So what I think they're going to probably do with T is they're going to tag him. They're going to keep him. They're going to pay him that $28 million a year for the 1 year, but that's it. And that's all they're going to do.
It's
and
the
like
second year on the tag. They can't tag him after that. He's going to be a free agent afterward unless you get a long-term deal. And I don't think you get a long-term deal. If you tag him, usually if you tag a player twice, they leave that third season after. They're not coming back.
You can't. Their defense is trash. I don't know, Andrew, if you can see what their defense is like.
Oh, yeah, I'll take a look at that.
You ain't going nowhere. And maybe, actually, the funny thing is if you beat my Patriots in the first game, you would have went to the playoffs. Crazy, but you lost. So, but that's my thing is like, I get it, and I know a lot of my takes are kind of like, I'm trying to honestly, my thing is I'm trying to extend a year or two because like people are like, do you want Myles Garrett? No, I don't. He's 29. He does not fit into my plan. The amount of what you want for a 29-year-old defensive end, where if I knew Myles Garrett was going to be a potential defensive player of the year for the next 3 years, yes, but I don't. And he's 29. And he's worth.
I think he is. I think he is though. I think he's just such a. He's not like a normal defensive lineman. He's still like a top 3 guy. I think I think he serves more of like what a Khalil Mack did in Chicago type of thing.
Where he had 3 good seasons. Win.
Yes. So he wouldn't like make sense. I agree with you. He doesn't fit in the Patriots plan. He'll fit somewhere else. But stuff like that.
I was gonna say I have that Bengals info. We'll get more into that next week once we do the Bengals deep dive episode. Stay tuned for that. But the Bengals were 25th in points allowed, 22nd on defense, and first place in special teams. Their offense was 6th in points forward. So we'll get more into that next week. But obviously, that is another team to look out for as a contender.
We got a little sidetracked here. Yeah. We were talking about the draft, and we ended up in free agency. So I think we talked a lot about free agency. It's all right. I have round 2, pick 6. They can go any which direction. I had them taking an offensive lineman in this round, so I have a little bit different in the next one. Let me give you a couple options. Jack Beach, for a wide receiver from TCU, 6'2", 215 pounds. He was a senior, 22 years old, a PFF grade of 83. He had 62 receptions, 91 targets for 1,034 yards and 9 TDs. He had 13. He's played for TCU. He had 13 contested catches, and it was tied for 31st of the most contested catches. And one thing that sticks out to me, he had 1 drop on the season on 91 targets. So, I mean, he had 62 receptions, so the other ones probably were non-catchable. He had 1 drop this season, didn't drop the ball much. You need to do something on the offense side of the ball, especially for the wide receiver side of things. So that guy, he'll be available, so he might be the option. I still think you could probably wait a round to draft a guy like that. So I mentioned Tyler Booker, a guard from Alabama, 6'5", 325 pounds, junior. He is 20 years old entering this draft. Very, very young. He is 66.5 overall grade, but he allowed 0 sacks, 3 hits, 7 hurries. He played 701 snaps at left guard and 77 snaps at left tackle in 2024. So that probably means there were some injuries probably that he needed to shift over to left tackle. So it might have made his grade suffer a little bit, but still a surefire guard. He might be a good guard, but really who I have the Patriots taking in the second round, it might be a little controversial, but I've talked myself into this. And sometimes it could be very dangerous talking yourself into something because you can end up like the Bears and Mitchell Trubisky. And that's like the third Mitchell Trubisky take I've said today.
Be careful. I know.
I just think about it more and more, and this guy makes so much sense. Cam Scatterbo.
Yeah.
Halfback. Arizona State Sun Devils.
I like
him. He runs hard. He works. His effort is – he's just always there. He's a smaller guy, 5'11", 215. His legs never stop moving. They never do. They never do. He had 294 attempts, 21 touchdowns, 1,712 yards rushing. He had an average yards yard per reception of 5.8. He had 52 targets. He had 547 yards receiving.
bro.
Off of 44 receptions, a PFF grade of 93.2. He's a beast. What better
Yeah.
of a player to give Drake May? It's
That's
this guy.
He was great when he played in the Orange Bowl, when he won the
Mhm.
Offensive Player
And he was sick. And he was sick.
And he looked good. Like, he's somebody that I like because the way, like, Bill Belichick used to get all these guys from Rutgers, these other, like, he had like 3 colleges he liked. And I want people that, one, can play maybe a couple positions the way we play. And I want someone that's going to be like, I don't care if I'm not better than you, like physically, like gifted. I am going to outwork you. And that's the guys I want. And the people
he
that
reminds
come
me of a Mike Allstott.
Yes.
Mike Allstott.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a guy you want on your team, especially in that, like you were saying, in that Orange Bowl game. He threw for a touchdown, he received a touchdown, and he rushed for 2 touchdowns, and he put everything out there and brought the Arizona State back in that game. And that's a guy you want on your team. Not only is he a great running back, he's a guy that could lead this running back room that's struggling.
He fits the Mike Vrabel mentality.
Just the entire mentality of it. He would be perfect. And I think we can honestly, the way I've read a little bit, I think we may be able to get him a little later than round 2. I don't think as many people are as high as him that we could be right now.
Well, I think he will gain more traction come draft time. PFF has him rated in as a second round talent, so he might go a little later, just because there's a bunch of running back talent this year. It's extraordinary. There could be a guy in the 4th round that goes in the 4th round that is the best running back of the class. We won't know until it ends up, but I just thought, what a great pick. What a great pick that would be. It fits the Vrabel mentality of smacking you in the face, and it's just I like it. I talked myself into it, and the more I thought about it, I'm like, he seems like a New England Patriot.
I'm all for like the one back thing because, again, I'm a fantasy player, as you guys know. But like my team, I want 2 backs. I want someone. I like Ramondre still. He can catch the ball. He can do well. This year seemed like worse than normal, what I expected. I want someone to fire him up. I like a 2-back system in my way. But my thing is, it does depend because, like, we're going to go to a little bit of draft. Like, what I was saying, I think ultimately what I would like, depending, if I can't get Abdul Carter at 4, I don't like Will Campbell at 4, depending on what I get in free agency. Because if I get 2 of those offensive linemen, I don't care. Fuck Will Campbell. Because he is, to me, he's not better than Abdul Carter. He's not better than Travis Hunter. He's not better than Mason Graham out of Michigan because of what some of my needs are. But I'm also not passing up on the best player. But if I can get Ronnie Stanley and Trey Smith or even Alaric Jackson, move one of them to guard, have a Cole Strange who did pretty well taking over at center after Andrews went out, which I'm not sure if Andrews is coming back. But I also have Michael Onwenu, who's done very well at right tackle when they've moved him there. So if you're telling me if I can pick up 2 really startable free agents, plus I have Onwenu, Strange looks good, and I'm willing to give him another season, you're telling me 4 out of my 5 are solid starters, I'll take that. And I'm going to skip on that because I can also see Will Campbell, as I think, dropping down to like 10 or even 12. Like, because if you guys as the Bears don't take a fucking offensive lineman either, I'm going to be pissed.
Yeah.
I'm going to be real pissed at you guys if you don't take one. Yeah. So, like, he could easily
it's the Bears. I don't give them any hope.
It's like you were saying, there is a lot of places that linemen can go, and especially with how many teams are not needing offensive linemen that are in the teams have addressed offensive linemen in different drafts. You have a team like the Jags, they're not going to need offensive linemen. They need cornerbacks. Or other parts of the Raiders need a running back. They need a quarterback. They need a receiver. The Jets need a quarterback. The Panthers, they don't need linemen. The Saints, they don't need a line. They need everything else. The Bears, and then like you were saying, if he falls past the Patriots, we could see him fall all the way down to pick 10 for the Bears.
That's the thing where I get worried because, like, if you don't see him because of solely needs and people like protect Drake, bro, spend that money, 121 or 119 million. We beat anyone else by $30 million. Yeah. Bro, spend it like you fucking mean it, and we need to. That's the thing is, like, but that's what's tough is a lot of players don't want to come. It's not sexy to come here right now. We need to entice them and show them, hey, come on, come play with us. We got a new head coach. He can do this. We got the young players. show them that you're willing to spend and win. Because honestly, what I would like to do is we have the fourth overall pick. Like I was saying earlier, I've heard rumors. I would like to trade down with the Raiders because by moving up 2 picks, they're giving me at least a second, if not maybe a third. I guess I'm guaranteeing I'm getting their 6th round, so 2 picks later, and I'm most likely going to be able to get a 2nd-round pick out of them, which, if I remember correctly, they're like actually, I think, ahead of us in the 2nd round for some reason.
I think you'd get like a 3rd and a 6th-round draft pick.
If you give me a 1st, a 3rd, and a 6th, I would take that to move down 2 spots because give me almost any of those Georgia defenders. There's also a solid chance if Mason Graham is still there at 6, 2 picks later, bro, we couldn't stop anyone. Like we had a little bit. This Keon White, he's like a mix. Like the dude is not big enough to stop the run, but he's also not fast enough to be there at the edge and get to the quarterback. So he's some weird hybrid that I need to figure out. And he's also our number 1 sack offender on 5. He's the most, and he was our best defender. And like Anthony Jennings, it's not the way. I need someone that's going to be stout, and like I need someone that's ready to play ball this year, not 2 and 3 years, this year. That's the issue with this stuff. I can't wait 2, 3 years to get these teams and these players. We need to sign either a Godwin or a Higgins, a T. Honestly, and some of the running backs, Aaron Jones is out there. He's probably expected to go back to Green Bay. But come on over for a year. I'll let you play for a year for me on something cheap. You're a good running back. You saw, but him and Ramondre, I'm okay with a 2-man, the 2-headed beast. But I would rather trade back 2 picks, see what I can get, and I'd still be willing to bet, Colin, that we could get a 2nd-round pick out of that 4th round, just for 1 4th-round pick.
Yeah, I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
Yeah, it also
that'd be good.
It also depends if these, like you were saying, if these players want to go to the Patriots. Like, who knows if Chris Godwin's going to want to go there? I mean, the Bucs aren't going to re-sign him. Maybe he's going to fall to a team like that. I think that the fact they brought in Vrabel and the fact that Drake May is there and there's such an up-and-up franchise, kind of like the Bears situation. They got a new coach. They got such an appetizing franchise that players are going to want to go there solely because of that. Now they're not like a team like the Saints. No one's going to want to go to the Saints because they have a first-time head coach. And he's he's not Kellen Moore isn't the greatest first-time head coach. Don't get me wrong, he's not a bad coach. But I think that no one's going to want to go to the Saints because they're not going to build. The Patriots have the most money and they're going to build. And teams are going to want to be around the Patriots.
Saints are in cap hell right now. They can't spend any money. So, I mean, nobody wants to go there. Nobody wants to resign there. Nobody wants to go there. So and their defense is just getting older and older with each and every year. They don't really add as much. They just traded away Marshawn Lattimore. So they're pretty much they're not going to be good for the next 3 seasons. I'm going to guarantee that.
Yeah.
A couple years back with that. Yeah, like their cap space is atrocious. That's what I'm hoping. Like, I know, like with that Ayuk thing, they didn't want to because it wasn't as appealing. Because I get it. We weren't going to win. Not that year by any means. And I was kind of hoping that money would actually talk that time. Every other time it seems to do, and Ayuk was like, nope. And that's what I think. I really think a lot of it depends on our free agency because, like, that's where I can see my Patriots and me personally wanting to go several different ways because I would still rather trade down, get a little more capital, maybe trade Joe while we can, get a little more capital. Even if Joe's like 2nd or 3rd round pick or a 3rd and 4th round pick, but he's young, I feel like we could get a little more out of him and some of that hype. Because I think there's better players in that top 10 that are these players ready to play ball in a pro league right now. And that's kind of my difference between Will Campbell, Mason Graham, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, is I feel there's a couple that are better and going to put it in place faster than it is him. I guess sometimes I wish I would be willing to wait a little bit more. But if I can get 2 of those 3 offensive linemen, I'm set for the next probably 3 years on those guys.
Well, there's also some guys in the 3rd round that I haven't mentioned yet, especially in the offensive line. Wyatt Millam, tackle out of West Virginia, had a grade of 91.1 this season. He's 6'6", 317-pound senior, 23 years old. He played 700 snaps at left tackle. He allowed 0 sacks this season, 0 hits, and only 6 hurries this season. So he might be a guy in the later rounds you might take in the 3rd round, a tackle. He's got the size. And, he doesn't play for the biggest school, so he's not going to get as much hype as that. But he could be another depth guy you could add to your offensive line because you need depth as well. in that position, I have Jalen Royals as well, wide receiver. Of course, they need a wide receiver. The Patriots do. Utah State Aggies. He's 6', 205. He's a senior. 55 receptions, 81 targets, 839 yards, 6 touchdowns. You have to rely more on your scouting department. If you feel like this guy's a good fit, you could do it. But I also thought Gunnar Helm, tight end from the Texas Longhorns, 60 receptions, 70 targets, 786 yards, 7 TDs. We know he likes to throw to Drake May likes to throw to tight ends. They had Hunter Henry, but Hunter Henry's no spring chicken right now. Why not pair him with a young tight end? Maybe get a Gronk 2.0. He's 6'5", 250. He's 22 years old, 63 PFF grade. We saw a guy kind of last season come from a big SEC school and make an impact on their team at the tight end position. Talking about Brock Bowers coming from Georgia. He could be pretty good. And, from what I've seen, he knows how to block too. So you could have him in at running plays as well. So I don't think getting a tight end is a bad option because besides Hunter Henry, you really don't have anyone that's that great.
I can't remember who else we had. Oh, we had Austin Hooper, I think, which which I'm okay with. I guess to me, it's like, is that really the need? Like a tight end? Like, again, like my stuff depends on where we at. If I had my ideal trade, I'm trading back to 6. I'm trying to get my extra picks from them. If it all works out in that way, I'm probably taking that defensive end from Georgia. I think his name is Michael something Bridges or something like that.
I think Malachi Bridges. Let me look at the mock draft.
Even that other Will Johnson from Michigan, that CB, if I can pair him up across from Gonzo, and then that's a no-fly zone for the next 4 to 5 years. I'm taking that over.
Let me ask you this question. Titans want to trade back. Titans don't want to be at that one position. Could you see a swap between the Patriots and the Titans that has Abdul Carter being taken as the first overall draft pick? Would you like that, or would you be giving up too much to get a guy like that, and you maybe settle for the Georgia defensive lineman or some other guys? I know there's a Michigan guy as well that's pretty good.
I think because I still feel like they're going to want a lot. It's still the number 1 pick. We all know how it works with it. Like, I think if I trade back from 4 to 6 with the Raiders, I could get a second-round pick. I feel like I could, and that's just 2 picks ago and just swapping, but that's how much it means. To get to number 1, we have the 4th overall pick, the 38th overall pick, 69th, and 77th right now. I feel like they're going to ask for like at least the 1st and 2nd. And if I can't get like another 2nd or 3rd in return, I need to know for a fact that this man's going to be Myles Garrett or Nick Bosa for his career. I need to know that. Because if you're not, it's not worth the risk to me. It's not. I would rather rebuild constructively knowing I'm getting solid players rather than I'm gambling on that, because I don't feel like we're in there. Because if we gamble and we're wrong, that just sets us back more years now. Now we're stuck trying to rebuild.
I just think Abdul Carter's just like, he is the guy. I feel like he is the guy that could be a center stone piece for this rebuild. Having a guy like that.
Could we see him being a guy like Micah Parsons, another guy from Penn State? And I was just going to confirm some of these guys we were talking about earlier to know their names. Michael Williams from Georgia, he was the edge. And then you got Will Johnson as a corner, and then Kenneth Grant. They're both from Michigan. And then you also have Mason Graham from Michigan. So there's a lot of Michigan guys. Mason Graham is the guy projected to go 4. And I, like Colin was saying, if you can take Abdul Carter, he could be that center stone piece. Like I was saying, maybe like
he reminds me of like what Aiden Hutchinson could be, like that cornerstone piece for a Detroit franchise. He could be a cornerstone piece for New England, because you need an offensive lineman, not offensive lineman, defense. You need both, but you need a defensive lineman like that in such a young corner piece, especially on a rookie deal. And I just think he's a phenomenal disruptor. I think he's worth it. I don't know. I just think he's worth it. He's the most surefire prospect to me
Yeah,
in this match.
With you at that, I think he's probably the best, the most surefire. It's just, what am I giving up? What
Yeah.
do we need? Can I wait another year? Because I know we're not winning next year. I know we're not even winning the division next year. But I would like to see at least a 500 season next year. But I just
yeah,
don't know how much we're going to have to give. It really depends on what we have to give up because there is that slight opportunity. Like we say, teams, we don't ever know what the fuck they're going to do. Look at old boy when he traded away D Hop, whatever, years ago, did that. And you're like, all of us on the couch are like, what the fuck did you just do?
hmm,
Like, were you drunk? And like, because there is that slight chance that if he goes to four and he's there, it's instant. Don't even tell me we're waiting on the board for 10 minutes. Like, no, get your asses up there and pick old Abdul Carter. Get him on the Patriots.
yeah.
Get him his #1 jersey right now.
I
I
think
know one person who's wishing that Abdul Carter does not go to the Patriots, and that would be Mr. Josh Allen. So,
yeah,
you're in a division with Josh Allen. You're going to need an elite guy to rush him to get him on the ground. Abdul
yeah.
Carter's an elite guy.
I was gonna say that's probably something. That's the only guy I think you would trade up to get. Abdul Carter, like you were saying, generational talent, and especially if you're going against the Bills for this many more years, and Josh Allen in the league for as many more years as he is, you're gonna need that guy. You can afford to lose a couple more years and then take that top spot if you get that center stone piece in Abdul Carter, and you trade up for him, and maybe give up some of the assets like a guy like Will Campbell or an offensive lineman you could draft. Maybe your offensive line will be terrible. You try to address that through free agency, but you need to get Abdul Carter. You're not going to be able to get that center stone piece through free agency like a Myles Garrett because of the situation the Patriots are in. You need to draft a guy that has no say in where he goes, and you need to get Abdul Carter just for that reason.
I do agree with a lot of that. Like, he seems right. He sounds right. He makes sense. I guess it's the team and how much we're willing. Like I said, as a Pats fan, how long do I really want to keep waiting? We've been trashed for a while now. We really haven't been good. There hasn't been a year that I've been like, okay, we actually have a shot in the playoffs to win, to do something. And we got to think most of these guys, and actually from what I've heard, like, I don't know, it seems like Abdul Carr is a little bit of a pretty boy, a little bit of a diva, and he really wants to go somewhere. And I don't want to have to deal with some shit in the past. Where, like, I don't want to play for the Patriots. They're not good. I
Mm-hmm.
want to play for a team here. I want to play for that. I think it depends on a lot of stuff. My free agency moves, like, I really hope money talks this offseason. I really do. But at me, like, personally, there's a lot of guys that want to go back to the teams that were winning. Because, like, when I look at defense, like, I have some of my free agents, some of the big ones. Josh Sweat, edge coming out of there. Javon Holland, that safety out of there. DJ Reed, cornerback Zach Braun, also off the Eagles, which I don't think he's going anywhere. Who is I can't even say his name. Shavarius Ward out of the Niners, another
Yep.
line or cornerback. Nick Bolton, that linebacker, and Dre Greenlaw, also all up for contracts. Dre Greenlaw, I know he loves it and he's older, but part of me is trying to post off for like 2 to 3 seasons so that we can find better because this draft isn't great. It's probably one of the lesser ones we've seen in a while overall. Like, you have those few, but do I want him? It depends on what, again, I'm going to have to keep saying it depends on what we give up and what they want. And that's what makes me nervous because if I can only, like, from the rumors with the Raiders, they were willing to give up their first round and a second round pick to move up to #4. And that's all it was. We give them #4. They give us #6 and a second round pick for that. That was like the rumors. And like that, I'm taking that in a heartbeat. Unless Abdul sits there at 4. But am I willing to move up to 1 personally? No. I still won't be able to, like, because just because I have him, I don't have much else. Who is his name? Godshaw? I don't know how to say his name. It's like Cheux. He was a solid defensive like lineman, but we could barely even stop the run on that stuff. Like I look at it like because like Keon White was okay, Anthony Jennings mediocre at best, and our defensive line without Christian Barmore was nothing. Like he showed why, and missing him, he was a huge piece. Like I don't think one person makes that much of a difference. If you have to key in on one defender, because look at our defense. Seriously, look at it. Who's there? Like Gonzo's, I do think he's better than what his actual numbers project, but when you're the best player on your defense, probably, and because I don't still think Jabril Peppers is better than him, he also played less games than him and wasn't warranted as much because of those suspensions. And you still hurt us for doing dumb shit off the field. So I still count that against you. But when you're the number one in your defense, you're like the edge. I don't know. I'll see because I've seen some of that Thibodeau, good, but they can line up against them. But they also have someone on the other side to do that. Does getting Abdul Carter and having Keon White on the other side, does that help Keon? Probably a bit. But that's what I want to see. Like, I'd rather get in more pieces, more capital. And honestly, maybe I trade back to get those to trades for some more pieces. But if I can get another first round, or I get the number 6 and get a second round pick, I'm okay with that. Saying that because the Cam Scatterbu I like. There's another, I think he was a lineman from Arizona State or somewhere else that I see going around, because that's the one thing I don't know. I don't know too many about the prospects. But I've seen a couple others that I would be willing to take an offensive lineman in a second. Actually, to be honest, at the number 4, if I'm being freaky, I'd rather take that Tet McMillan out of Arizona, that receiver out of there, to be honest, in times of how good he looks, because I don't know if Jalen Polk and Javon Baker are it. I want to kind of give them one more year, because our offense was just such trash that I'm like, are you bad, or is it our offense that's bad? I don't really know, and I'd be willing to give them like another half season, but I would be even willing to take Tet out of Arizona more, almost possibly at number 4 too, because I don't think he'd go even at 6, depending on who he's at. Because the Jags I think have number 5, bro. If you pair up Brian Thomas Jr. with Tet right now and a healthy Travis Lawrence, I think that's a pretty strong offense over there now with those 2 players. And that's kind of what I would go for even at one point, like depending on what happens. Free agency is a huge deal to me, and like how things change, because depending on who we sign, like if we get no offensive lineman, yeah, give me Will Campbell straight up. Like I'm not even going to argue that point like that and going like we need someone at that. And if we are not getting anyone in free agency, give me that lineman. I know he's going to be solid. I know he's going to be good. He will be better with time. I just feel like as a Pats fan in the team, we need someone a little more now than later.
Yeah, I know wide receiver is very tempting, but you could get somebody at a decent value. If you think about the Bears drafted Rome Odunze last year, high pick 8, instead of going with an offensive lineman. And then you had the Chargers did the exact opposite. Joe Alt they drafted in the first round, and then in the later rounds they drafted Ladd McConkey, and he was their amazing wide receiver.
Yeah.
Me, I think the Patriots don't draft a wide receiver now. I think the wide receiver is what you add, one of your last things to add. Get the offensive line, get the defensive line correct. Yeah. After you get that, then you add kind of those skill guys. I don't like the idea of spending a 4th round draft pick on a guy, on a wide receiver. I don't know. I guess call me old fashioned that way, because I don't know. But I would have passed on guys like CeeDee Lamb. I would have passed on guys like Jamar Chase because you didn't draft them in the first round. So you live and die by the sword in that aspect.
Yeah. And you can't ignore the fact that if you don't have a line, you don't have a quarterback, and Drake May can't perform if he doesn't have guys to block for him. He's going to die back there. So if you want your young guy to not only last long in the league, but develop and be able to progress some of these guys, maybe like Jalen Polk, turn into a Ladd McConkey, like a lower draft guy, to develop into a guy that's high caliber, you need to have offensive linemen to block for him.
No, I agree with that. That's why I said I think it depends. Everything depends on how we spend our money and the way we do things, because I could go so many different ways depending on what we get. I would rather not have that, because I would like to give Jalen and Javon and my team offense one more real shot at actually having a decent offense in the line that can actually protect Drake and give him an actual chance to throw the ball. Like, not just sit back there running for your life, trying to get it out or get it to the tight end real quick. But I guess from what I've heard, though, too, and like I only got to do a little bit of research, was that the receiver end seems to be quite top-heavy in this draft. And then it seems to be, from what I've read, drops off very significantly, very quickly. And, like, who's actually seemingly worth it. And we've never done well. I don't know if it's just bad Patriots juju with wide receivers, but we can't pick one in the draft to save our fucking lives.
I don't trust Mike Vrabel to draft a wide receiver. I don't know. Andrew, can you look up if AJ Brown was during his era? It might have been during his era, but I think that's the only wide receiver that I remember that him drafting like a good wide receiver. Because we all remember Treylon Burks, the 2022 first round draft pick, number 16 on the Titans. That was during the Mike Vrabel era. Yeah. So does he have a knack for wide receivers? I'd rather them spend the money and get someone like a proven talent like T. Higgins or Chris Godwin, to be honest, than drafting a high round draft pick for a wide receiver. We've seen it work out and we've seen it not work out. Another for every Jamar Chase, you get a Kevin White.
Yeah.
And if you don't know who Kevin White is, 2011 Chicago Bears, Virginia Tech legend, wide receiver, was said to be the next best thing since sliced bread. Well, he was not. He was a little moldy bread, if I'd say so. If I made a comparison like that,
I have the AJ Brown stats. Mike Vrabel was a coach on the Titans from 2018 to 2023. AJ Brown was on the Titans, drafted in 2019, left in 2021. So his entire playing career was with Mike Vrabel. His best career receiving year was 2022, the first year he left the Titans. With the Titans, he had 1,051 yards, 1,075 yards, and 869 yards. So he's very consistent when he was on the Titans. And he obviously played a bigger role into the Eagles the last 3 years. But with Vrabel, he was able to develop him into the receiver he is today.
A crap team, too.
See, part of me kind of wished that the Eagles got knocked out in the first round because there might have been a very good chance that AJ Brown could have been on the trade talks because we heard all throughout the season that, Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown did not get along very well. They weren't like the bestest of friends. And we all know AJ Brown loves the Patriots, wanted to be a New England Patriot, was devastated they didn't draft him. Mike Vrabel was devastated that they ended up trading AJ Brown. Reunite.
Like best friends.
Yeah. So reunite them in New England would have been interesting. I don't think that happens now because you just won a Super Bowl. Super Bowls heal a lot of aching.
He did happen to mention, though, like AJ Brown saying after he won, you guys might have saw that it wasn't all he thought it was going to be. He's all about apparently just playing ball and being the best he can, which maybe that didn't do it for him because it didn't really seem like winning that Super Bowl did it for him. Like, I guess he was excited and happy because that's something I kind of fingers crossed. I'm like, yo, can Vrabel do a little something and like whisper in his ear and be like, hey, man, come play with us for the next few years. Like, I got all this money. You got this. We got this boy coming in. But it is hard. You just won a Super Bowl. Are you likely to go back next year? Yeah, you're looking pretty solid over there in Philly, depending on where their free agents go, if they decide to stay or not.
I just think AJ Brown's more about him. He needs to be the number one guy. He needs to get the most amount of balls in the league. He needs to be.
He will be in New England by a long shot.
By a long shot.
Butte ain't it. Bourne ain't it. Pop ain't it.
No.
I don't think any of them are it, even if we have a solid offensive line. I don't see them yet. They're solid role players in secondary and third, but I want that guy that's going to stand out, literally walk up to the DB, give him one of these and be like, I'm the ball, bro. And like outside of Darrelle Revis, maybe a couple others, they're stopping you, but otherwise they're not. And they know it. And that's what I love, and that's what we need. And like over there is I need someone like that. Like if I don't have anything, if we make no moves whatsoever, my first couple like picks is probably offensive line, defensive line in the second round. Hopefully I can get Scatterboo maybe in the third, but honestly, I would probably still look up, like, we got to pick people up in free agency. We have to. We have to spend that money. We've got to come away with next to none. Like, I want next season, I don't want us to be anywhere near the number one with all the amount of cap space. We just spend on the right people to come to bring to our team.
Yeah.
Like, I want us to be in the right line for that. Because, like, do I want really set? No. Because, like, I would prefer other people in front of him too, but it depends on what we get. Those guys, I would love an AJ Brown on our team. He would easily and clearly be the number one over target. Everyone in the league knows that when they come up against us, but try and stop them.
Yeah,
AJ Brown.
I think the best improvement that, or most realistic improvement as a Patriots fan you can ask for in this offseason is for them to be a middle of the pack team. For them to be in the middle, kind of around like a team like
9-8.
Yeah, like 9-8. Maybe how a team like the Dolphins performed this year. They were off and on, but they had spikes of being good, spikes of being bad. That's what you could probably realistically ask for as a Patriots fan. And I know us as Bears fans, that's what we're asking for too. So if you see that one good, decent year sitting at 500, that's when you can address the further needs in the draft. Maybe next year
we can maybe 10 wins.
Yeah.
Maybe. I think they finish second in their division.
Yeah, we could see
Miami is in a little bit of a shambles, and I think the Jets are the Jets.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a great improvement from them this year, and I think that's when next year you can say, hey, we did good this year. This team is more appetizing for guys that are going to be free agents, and then you could address with a great receiver in the draft. You're going to get one that's going to fall because next year's draft is a higher quarterback draft class, and you're going to have a lot of good talent, especially in 2 years when guys like Ryan Williams, great freshman this year. What was that receiver from Ohio State that played really good in the Rose Bowl?
I think Ohio State's got that one too.
Oh, is that Jeremiah Smith?
Yeah, Jeremiah Smith. There's those two freshman receivers.
He's a freshman.
Yeah, there's
two
freshman receivers. Ryan Williams on Alabama, and then Jeremiah Smith on Ohio State. You're going to get 2 years. You're going to have those guys in the draft. They're going to probably be top picks in the draft if they keep it up. And then you can build on that in the future, and maybe after you've had a couple of years of going, after going 500, and then you could trade up for a pick like that or a guy like that once you can afford to do that because you have that team you built. But it's really just seeing at least improvement for next year, and you don't want to do what the Bears did, hope for improvement, then tank.
Yeah. Real quick, we mentioned the offensive coordinator in Josh McDaniels. While Terrell Williams was announced as the defensive coordinator, he was with Mike Vrabel coaching the defensive line in Tennessee during his 6 years. So if you think about it, Tennessee always has had a really good defensive line, especially with Jeffrey Simmons. So you should expect an improvement in defensive line play, or at least I do expect. He's a great defensive line coach. Hopefully he's not going to be asked to do as much because, Mike Vrabel likes to call defense stuff. So he's going to just be working on that defensive line, which is very good. Another coaching hire that I just wanted to mention, Andrew, Thomas Brown is the New England Patriots tight end / pass game coordinator.
I didn't even know that.
Interim head coach of the Chicago Bears last season, ended his tenure with the Bears with a win against the Packers. So hopefully, I think he'll be good at the pass coordinator role and tight end coach role. I think he needs a couple more years to develop to be a really good offensive coordinator. But I think he's a good offensive mind, and I thought it was interesting to bring up.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that he obviously didn't perform as a head coach on the Bears. As an offensive coordinator, when he was up in the box, he was astounding. And then now as a passing game coordinator back where he started with the Bears, then we could see a great improvement there, especially with a young guy like Drake May.
Dude, I didn't even know who that was on my team, and hoping that he's bringing the right people in. I like Josh McDaniels back without a doubt. He's one of the best offensive coordinators in there and offensive minds. Not a head coach like we've all talked about. I'm glad we have that. I was actually wondering where our defensive coordinator came from. I didn't know where he actually was from.
Yeah, he's from Tennessee. And the one thing that Mike Vrabel and the Patriots did right, they were the first ones to announce their head coach, meaning Mike Vrabel had the pick of the lock. He was probably campaigning this whole year to say, "Hey, come join me in wherever I end up." And he was hired very early. So it means he got all the guys he wanted. He got all the guys he wanted. So it's going to be very exciting to see this New England Patriots team this season. It's going to be much well improved, and hopefully it means maybe a potential playoff berth. I don't see it this coming up season. I think just an improvement, maybe a little bit below 500 or maybe at 500 at the end of the season. I think maybe 9-8 is a little bit realistic, but depending, you'll get some divisional wins. So say you sweep Miami and you sweep the Jets. It's 4 wins right there. The Bills are going to be a little bit hard. They're just a good team right now. They're just more well put together. But I think you'll be able to compete with them in a couple of years because I think Mike Vrabel's a better coach. I think he's the best coach in the division right now, at least for the AFC South. I don't know if you guys agree with me, but I
Yeah.
think that's
I would say I agree with you. I think that McDermott's a good coach, but he's not the
AFC
greatest.
East.
He's
My bad. What did I
falls off.
say? AFC South.
He falls off in the playoffs. Mike Vrabel is good. Mike McDaniel is and then you got Aaron Glenn now. He's a new coach, so you got a lot of these iffy coaches. And I would agree with you that he's the best coach in the division and the best guy to lead the Patriots in the future.
I think he's better. I think the Bills are probably got one more year, maybe two max at their window right now. Like theirs is almost passed to me in this time, and so is time with McDermott. Like he's had that opportunity to win, and unfortunately, Patty Mahomes is in the league right now, and they can't beat him. I don't think they have much else. Like they're dwindling down all of their stuff, their offense, their defense. They're not going down. That's why I'm okay with taking that couple years to start. Let's go up. Everyone else, the Jets, they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
They never know what the fuck they're doing. The Dolphins, well, until they pick a better quarterback that can stay healthy now, because I don't mind to and like them and all.
Dolphins have been people don't realize that Dolphins have been a poverty franchise for forever.
Yeah.
I mean, name the last time they've won a playoff game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hurt actually that 1 year.
And I don't know if the last time, let me look it up. Last time Miami won a playoff game.
So was starting for us when Brady got hurt for the season. I'm pretty sure we won 11 games and we still missed the playoffs because the Dolphins won like 12. I think that may have been it. But I think this is our year coming up. It really depends. But I would rather our team – I just don't think it's a strong draft.
Yeah.
I really don't. And I would rather pick the best one. What's up? What we got?
Miami Dolphins won their last playoff game on December 30th of 2000.
Oh, my God.
They beat the Indianapolis Colts in overtime.
That's farther than I thought. That was a lot. I thought it was new.
I mean, it's been a while since their first playoff win. So the Patriots are set up good here. It all depends on their free agency and their draft picks, and hopefully they end up very good. I think we touched on everything. Patriots.
There was one thing I wanted to touch on real quick before we left off. I knew we talked about it last week on the podcast to steer away from the Patriots stuff, but way too early Super Bowl predictions. I want everybody to pick one Super Bowl prediction that you're going to have now. We're going to look back on this a year from now, and we're going to say, hey, you picked the Super Bowl. So, Colin, we talked about it last podcast. If your picks have changed, if they haven't, who are you taking for the Super Bowl next year?
To be honest, I mean, who couldn't pick the New England Patriots and the Chicago Bears? Like, who couldn't? Put some money on it.
Of all people and all teams, you're right. We real fans here, okay?
Yeah. Let's roll back to '85 Super Bowl. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Please don't. Oh, that was so hard. When I was looking at some of these Super Bowls, when I just watched this last one, I legit thought about that. I was like, the Chiefs are getting beat down so bad. The last time I seen one worse was when y'all beat the shit out of us in that '85 Bowl. I was like, oh no. Don't bring back nightmares, please, because that was a tough one to watch.
Colin, what is your realistic pick for the Super Bowl? We talked about it a bit last week, but if you had,
it's going to be Philadelphia. Teams. Philadelphia is going to be up there because they don't lose many players. There's not many players that need to be paid. They need to play a couple key players, but they also have a lot of depth to fill it. New England has the most Super Bowl appearances too. I don't know if you guys know that. They have the most 11, so they're doing pretty well with Super Bowl appearances. I'm going to go with Philadelphia, and then we're going to put the Chiefs back out there. I think they need to reset, and I think this was a good reset year, and I think the Chiefs will make it back again.
Buzz, what do you got?
Well, I'm going to go with my Madden team at one point was I'm going to go with the Lions as long as they're healthy. I know, Andrew, you don't like them. You think they're some nasty gangsters, but the Lions look too good. Like when we had an Aiden Hutchinson who was still leading the league in sacks like 3 weeks after he was hurt for the entire season. if they have a healthy, and I know how to work, if we're saying fully healthy all year round, I'm still taking the Lions. They look too good. They're only going to be better with this next coming year. Those fools, they know how to draft. They've hit like the last 2 years in their first 3-round picks. Like last year was phenomenal for them, or 2 years ago with like Aiden Hutchinson, that linebacker Jack something, and their other one. They looking good. I'm sorry. They put up so many points. There's the reason I won the fantasy championship, because the Lions put up points, brother. If they get a defense to stop them, they can. Because like I said, Eagles depend on me because they have just enough key signings on that defense that make a difference to them, that if they need to get like 90% of those guys back. But I like them the most, and my little dark horse, honestly, would be the Commanders. After that, though, I'll take a dark horse of the Commanders coming out, because they were one game away from the bowl this year with a rookie quarterback. And if he actually does improve, and they're only going to get better, they're not going to get worse.
He's the best quarterback in the NFC right now. I think you can make that argument. He's going to be there for years. He's going to be the Mahomes of the NFC. There's not many guys you could say is better than that. I guess you could say, as of right now, a week after the Super Bowl, you say Jalen Hurts because he won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But I think talent-wise, you can't go wrong with the old Washington quarterback and Jaden Daniels.
Like within 1 year, we all looked at the Commanders and would laugh. Come on. We all looked at them like, haha. And then they started trading away their defense to get picks, but they starting to like make sense. It's starting to come together for them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say a dark horse pick really after this year, but I'm going to take the Lions overall. If I'm going to take the next best team in the AFC, I like the Ravens still. They look good. I don't think Lamar's out of his window anytime. He's still got a few more years, if not more than that. He looked great. He's settling into being that pocket passer. If they can get maybe a little bit better on offense, find another, because I don't know if Zay is quite it. I don't know if it's just the offense they run with Derrick Henry, but they look phenomenal. I've never seen their defense play worse in years, actually. This is the first time I've ever looked at Baltimore and been like, what happened to your defense, brother? It's just, I have a hard time with Buffalo. I want to look at them. I don't know. They just can't seem to get past it. But maybe next year could be the year. But I'm going to take Lions and Ravens. I'm going with the two top teams in my mind on both sides.
Yeah, my biggest problem with the Lions is the fact that they lost Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. Dan Campbell can develop offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators like no other. He builds a culture like no other. I think they're going to have a tough time building the team back. Dan Campbell is not necessarily a guy that's all hands-on. He's kind of a leave it to the coordinators guy and let him cook behind the scenes. Dan Campbell's a culture builder. And don't get me wrong, he could build that culture. I think the Lions are going to have an off year. They have so much young talent. I think the year after is going to be their Super Bowl window reopening up again. They're obviously going to be favored going into this season, but I think that's where they're going to struggle going into the season. I think that the Eagles are going to be my NFC pick, just like Colin said. Saquon's not going to slow down as long as there's no injuries. We saw that with the Lions this year. They're going to be in the Super Bowl again.
Crazy the next year, too.
Yeah.
He's going to probably be even better next year, to be honest.
Yeah, they have young guys. They have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and you have Saquon, who's young. Jalen Hurts is young. Their entire offense is young. They have on the older side of offensive line. We kind of touched on that like when we recapped the Super Bowl. But
they got a couple young guys on that. They only got a couple spare, a little what you consider older guys. They got a lot of guys that drafted, though. They got Landon Dickerson, very, very good guard. I mean, they're going to be set up for a long time. I chose the Kansas City Chiefs because if you really think about it, this was a year that you were going to beat the Chiefs. If any year, it was going to be this year. They were weak at wide receiver. They're building up a good defense. If you see that defense, the defense is a young defense. It's only going to get better. They need to pay a couple guys, but there's always some cap finagling, and their wide receiver situation is going to get better. You're getting Rice back next year, and a second year Worthy.
With Worthy and Rice, they're pretty set. They'll find someone else at tight end. I don't think they're as potent at that, but I know they weren't no 16-1 team this year.
Yeah, they weren't.
I don't care what anyone says about that offensive line, bro. You don't just get blown out in the biggest stage. And the same thing when Brady beat him with the Bucks. Bro, shut up. Like, y'all just complain and bitch and moan about whatever when you don't have it go your way. Guess what? They didn't have it go their way either, and I didn't see Brady give up in the third quarter against the Falcons. No, I agree. sideline pumping people up
Yeah.
like, fuck you, let's go. Andrew, I really like the point about Dan Campbell, and that's something I was trying to say. You
Yeah.
made the good point of, like, I was trying to tell someone that he can build that environment and the culture, and I didn't think about that. I love the way that you put that.
Yeah.
That's great. And I do think that could be, you're right, a little bit of a stumbling point for them. I guess I get it. My differences between, we'll see how that coordinator thing affects them. I really hope the Ben Johnson thing doesn't like set them back. That like, because you have players like Gibbs and Monty, you have Amon Ra on there. Whatever happened to what's the tight end? Why did I forget him out? He was the number one a couple years ago.
Laporta.
In Florida.
Yeah.
Don't really know if he was hurt all year or not, or if they just changed it. Like, they have no reason to slow down on offense. Like, you have some of the best skilled players out there. Goff has shown over these last few years he is more than capable of throwing the ball and getting when they decide to, but they knew they didn't have to. They ran all year because nobody was good enough. Even with a trash defense, they didn't have to do that for most of them, but you can't do that in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I've only seen, I hope Jalen does it. I'm not a hater against him. I like it. It's just, this was the first year finally they caught heat at the right time. They always started off too hot and cooled off in that end. So we'll kind of see how it always goes. But I like the way you put that, man. That's perfect. Now, I was always thinking about how to tell people that.
Yeah, it's interesting, and they have arguably, if you take the Eagles out of the equation, I think they have the most talent in the entire NFL. You have an astounding defense. You have Aiden Hutchinson. You have Branch. You have Kirby Joseph. You have a great backfield. You have great running backs. If everything clicks like it did at the beginning of the season, then they're probably the best team in the entire league. And touching back on the Chiefs, they have they're 23rd in cap, so they don't have a lot of cap to play with. They're obviously going to be a desirable location for a lot of free agents. And if I had to pick my final Super Bowl, I think it's going to be the Eagles, and I think it's always not. But I think the Bills, this is going to be their year. They're going to get the Chiefs while they're down. You can never pick the Bills in the playoffs. I think that they're gonna have to close in on that window at some point, or else they're just gonna go down as one of the.
It's a jinx. If I pick them, they're gonna lose. So I'm not gonna pick them. So hopefully they end up winning because I don't pick them.
I feel the same because if it's gonna be a year, depending on how the Chiefs reload, this is good. That next year is gonna be it really for them. Like, I know he's still kind of young in comparison to how long Tom played and did that and where he's at, but. That defense is good. Like, they could play run. They kept them in that. I don't know if the refs really got them that many wins, but I know they're not a 16-1 team this past year.
Yeah.
They just won with all coaching. They had good coaching at the right moments. They got lucky, and that's just what happens sometimes. And
played well as a team. They came together as a team. They knew they could.
It happens all the time in sports. And I agree with you, Andrew. But I think he hired Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson once. He could find another two coordinators to take over and build what he's had. The one thing about Detroit is I get they're so talented, but that division is so talented. I mean, forget about the Bears.
Right?
The Vikings and the Packers.
What the fuck?
The Vikings are just a good coach team. The Vikings and the Packers are just two really well-coached teams. Don't talk about the Bears. We're not talking about them because we don't know if they'll be good or not. But if they are good, you're talking about an even better division. So Detroit's just it's a little interesting to me. I don't know how to pinpoint it. I just thought if they needed to win, they needed to win this year. They were going to win it all.
I think like you said, they needed to win. And I think they're going to not have such a tough time building up next year, considering the rest of the teams in the division are currently building. The Packers are still rebounding off of obviously getting smoked in the first round of the playoffs. The Packers are always iffy. The Vikings are rebounding off of probably losing Sam Darnold and taking in J.J. McCarthy. And then you have the Bears, who are obviously rebounding off of getting a brand new coach. And then the Lions, obviously, they're getting coordinators back. So all these teams in that division are going to be going through the same struggles. So we could be seeing the Lions actually opening their window back up, but that might struggle at the beginning of the season with those kinks getting worked out. So that would be interesting to follow there.
Sam Darnold over there from a motherfucker seeing ghost one season to all of a sudden being almost an MVP race. I'm like, dude.
Yeah.
But can we realistically see another Sam Darnold year like that? Is it because JJ? Is it because Aaron Jones? But And we
You're
don't
not
know
gonna
anything
see-
about JJ McCarthy though. Like, was that a freak off year that they just did that? It is a much better season, but if we stay 100% healthy, and that's the way we have to approach this, the Lions are still a better team overall with either Sam Darnold or JJ McCarthy. Like, I know, like, to me, Justin Jefferson I'm taking him as the number one receiver in my league. If I have to pick one in mine, he's going to be the starting one on my team. I still think he's the best receiver in the league. Even over Jamar in this previous year, even the previous years with Cooper Kupp getting Triple Crown. If you really give JJ on an offense like that, JJ's putting all y'all to shame. And he is. He's that good. Like, Jay Jettas, the man can have any chain he wants for the next few years because he provides it and shows it every time. It's tough. I guess that's why we play and we predict every year to see what actually happens. So
yeah, I was gonna say it's interesting to touch on because there's a lot that could go wrong, especially with the Chiefs or the Lions. The Chiefs are obviously Travis Kelce looked terrible in the Super Bowl. Oh my gosh, drop passes, no effort on the field. Next year will probably be his last year, but say the Chiefs win the Super Bowl again, then he's going out. I think no matter what, he's going out after next year.
Yeah. I just looked at the time, and we've been almost recording for almost 2 hours now. So I think we're about time to wrap it up. I think this will be one of the longest episodes we've done besides the draft special. I think the draft special was a longer episode. But this has been a great episode, Buzz. Yeah. Thanks for coming on and talking Patriots. We got through a lot of things we wanted to say about the Patriots. I think we talked about everything.
Yeah,
I mean, about everything. I appreciate it, fellas. No, this was great. I love talking to you guys about this shit any time of the day, any time of the week.
I was going to say, this has been a long time coming, but this is good. A good kickoff to the offseason content. We're going to try and do a deep dive on a lot of NFL teams because there's a lot of teams that basically every team in the league you can say something about that'll take up 2 hours of our time. But
I know the Patriots are my team. You want me to pick a squad like, I don't know, the Jaguars? I got y'all.
Jaguars deep dive. I don't want to touch that team with a 10-foot pole. That's an ugly team. Pick a decent team. Pick a good team we can go over.
Just say, well, you know what? Maybe the Texans will step up just a tad.
Okay.
At the Texans after this atrocious year from the previous year.
Yeah.
Still threw me off. Yeah. I wasn't expecting it to be as bad as they were. So
we'll definitely be in talks about doing another deep dive with you because we had a great time today. Maybe we can all touch on maybe even the Bears. We can do something on that. We'll do a deep dive on another team with you sometime soon. But we appreciate you for coming on, and it's been a long time coming. So
we'll get you beginning of the season. We'll do a division prediction. How about that? We'll do records prediction. You do your records. We'll all do our records. We'll come back on here. We'll do something like that. That sounds pretty fun.
The teams make their moves, get the draft settled in, see where everyone's actually gonna be. And I like that idea. Yeah, we'll see where everyone's gonna be because I think that's the biggest thing. There's a lot of teams, especially my Patriots. We have enough picks. We have enough this. And depending on what we do, there's just so many different avenues we can take. So I'm excited to see what happens. And, we'll talk again down the line when everything gets settled out and all the dust settles finally for all the teams. We're like, okay, T. Higgins is on my team, and so is the rest of these guys. Probably not going to happen. But
or it could be the worst and be like, they signed nothing. We have we spent $30 million on Amari Cooper, and that was our offseason. And
we'll spend half of money on Amari Cooper, and he's going to be like, you know what, got hurt, I'm retired, and be like, oh brother.
So it could be good, it could be bad, but we'll be back and we'll have an episode on that. That would be pretty good.
Yeah, we appreciate you for coming on again, and we'll keep in talks about doing another episode sometime soon. This has been a great episode of the Anytime Sports Podcast. A good kickoff for the offseason. Nice, deep Patriots dive, and hopefully you guys enjoyed. We'll see you in the next one.